Welcome to the show, and today we're talking about Kurento. Did I pronounce that right?
Kuroneko.
Kuroneko.
Kuroneko. Kuroneko. Yeah.
Now, this is my first viewing, and I have to say I did really enjoy the film. Although I am kind of curious to know, like you said one of your favorite films. So, is this your first Shindo film you ever seen, or are you familiar with his work?
Uh, yeah, I think it probably was the first film I've seen of his. I kind of did like shortly after I did watch Onibaba as well. I bought them in, and th this one was I for some reason I decided to watch this one first. I'm so glad I did because like from like almost like an instantly fell in love with the film. But what I'll say is my first viewing of it wasn't from the Criterion release. It was a UK label called Eureka Entertainment, and they had that. I think they do like a side, but like for access, easier access. I think they also do like the same transfers as sometimes Criterion does, and they do like foreign films and all that kind of stuff. So um, the reason I say that is because I was, as much as I loved the film on that first watch, I was a bit like the quality of it's not so pristine really. And then as soon as I learn the fact of like it's like a higher quality for the Criterion release, I was kind of like, right, I'm gonna have to import the disc because I live in the UK. So that's how much I love the film and how much of an impact had on me for the visuals, because that is one of the things that really strikes out to me. The black and white cinematography in this is just absolutely amazing, and just very feels very like elegant as well in terms of like the content of the visuals and the way that the action is portrayed.
Yeah, it was actually one of the notes I did take was on the cinematography, especially in like the opening scene was one of the ones right maybe about 6 minutes in, the fire of the house scene. And just how
Hmm.
like I thought they just really captured it so well, especially with how between the cinematography and the editing, just the way they cut it, and like the burning and the flames. I definitely those are the notes I definitely took while watching it. It definitely really stood out to me.
Hmm. Yeah, just I'd say like that very like establishing shot, just like all like silent at the beginning, and then the samurai kind of coming out of the bamboo grove and just yeah, like approaching the scene like just they're gonna swarm the house essentially. And that kind of sets up obviously the story of what would come. Um, for the fact of what obviously what samurai is supposed to represent, they're supposed to be you normally see them in other films, obviously like that they're the good guys. Think so. I think in Shindo's films, he takes the approach that the samurais are like the contrast of what you'd normally the standards are normally. So the fact that he makes them the sort of like villainous in his films, I think that's his like motif, as it were. So it's quite interesting as well to see. It's like see from other Japanese films I've seen that they normally say portrayed as good, like the heroes, and then to have such a vast contrast to how they in this appear. You obviously pillaging and yeah, unfortunately attacking the women of the hut basically, which thankfully you don't see a great deal of. It's more implied, but even like those shots as well, I can appreciate in the sense of like how menacing they are. Kind of the samurai in the group are kind of just like watching over and just like stuff in the faces, kind of thing with the food and like in that voyeuristic way, kind of thing. But it's uh, it's interesting and yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think it definitely. I liked how it was more reserved. It wasn't as graphic as some of the films I've seen.
Mhm.
And that did kind of confuse me. Not confuse me. It kind of took me for a loop at first, because at first I didn't realize they were samurai, so to speak. Well, I knew they were samurai, but I thought they were more like Ronin or just on or kind of like more like Ronins and Ronins for hire because of the way they conducted themselves. Because, like you said, usually
Mhm.
samurai are more honorable, and
Mhm.
again, usually have Ronins and it's the ex samurai who no longer follow the code, who are more
Mhm.
um, menacing to society, if you will. And it definitely took me for a loop that they actually still were samurai working as honorable samurai.
Mhm. Yeah. And so with that, obviously, that the story of revenge plays out from that. It's you, yeah, it does seem like kind of odd, like with the obviously the burnt down hut, and then the bodies are perfectly fine, but kind of look you can look past. I can certainly look past that, obviously, because that's just a setup for the cat who is sort of there to sort of like lap up the blood that's on their bodies, and then sort of like spiritually take control of them, and then that's how they become like sort of like ghosts of the night, really. These and seek revenge on the samurai that kind of did them wrong, really. Which obviously is not obviously for a folklore aspect. That has been done in other Japanese films before, but I say the way this is done, like the fact you obviously the samurai's just walking around in the dark, and there's like a white figure just jumping over like in it was like slow mo, and I think it was like wow, that's really striking visual for me, like for that, and then even just walking through the bamboo grove to the house where they reside and everything all like that is just really eerie and atmospheric, and obviously the music plays into that as well. It's very minimal on the score in, but uses it when it uses it really well, and that's a good aspect of it.
That's what the issue too, because when I was watching this last night, I don't know if it was just me
Hmm.
or in the opening scene, it seemed like they're, I don't know if it was, again, for just me or if you noticed this too when watching it, only in the opening scene, like when they first come to the hut, when the sound first come to the hut, you hear it was like, it sounded like the score and the sound mixing was very intense, but only
Hmm.
for like the first like 2 minutes of the movie. Like them
Hmm.
drinking the water, it sounded like it was a loud gulp, like they were
Right.
gulping really
Yes.
loud.
Yes. Yeah. There was. Yeah. There. Yeah. No. I'd forgotten about that aspect. Yeah. Yeah. Like a gloop, gloop, like almost like cartoonish in a way. Yeah.
Now, do you think was that intentional, or like you said you've seen this from the Eureka cut as well? Now, is
Yeah.
that intentional, or is that something that was
I,
only in this cut because of
I
just
believe so.
transfer?
It was exactly the same kind of mixing. I think really. I think just the difference really for me, what obviously stood out for me was the sort of like the visual transfer of the discs really. But as far as I can remember, because I've long given that disc away, but stuck with the Criterion one. The gulping sound probably was apparent as well. I think it's just to emphasize because the rest of it's been so quiet really. But yeah, it's very interesting choice to include that element.
I know so that there was one part of the score where it was really like high and intense, but it was only for that opening sequence, and everything else
Hmm.
was very melatonin and it seemed more flowing. Like I just kind of stood out for me.
Hmm.
I wasn't sure if that was
Hmm.
a mishap when they were doing the transfer, or if that was
Hmm.
intentional.
Hmm. Yeah, as far as I know, it's probably intentional. And so with how things move on, then like I obviously there's another thing, a good thing I love about the film is like there's the horror aspect of it. Like I said, so the score elevates that a little bit. Obviously the thing of these what obviously the film is called Kuroneko, which means black cat. But there's also the term Bakeneko, which means like monster cat. So I guess that's what they are. Obviously in Japanese folklore, there's the two variants of like the white cat, the lucky one with the paw, and you put the coin
Oh,
on. I don't
yeah,
you've probably you've seen that representation, but Bakeneko means like obviously like the yin to the yang or whatever, like that different element of it, the darker side of it. So they're the ones that are ones that take more control of like um either people, and then let's say like more seeking vengeance on for things. So that's what that, and obviously that in place like lowering the samurais into their home. Um, and then obviously there's like the vampiristic element of like biting the neck, seducing them, and then taking the blood and killing them off, basically. Which in this, like, that's very again very subtle, but very effective. Like in like, oh, it sounds painful, it looks painful, and like the way it's cut, and then next scene is like, oh, he's dead, lying in the charred remains of where the house used to stand. Really, so again, it's impactful of like, okay, this is all an illusion of on their part and everything. Really, like the ghostly aspect of it all. And I really do like the the very quick instances of like with the obviously the cat elements of it, like the paw hand when she hands him the drink and everything. She can see like the fur on their arm, and there's like a the hair has a little tail swish kind of thing
Oh,
going
yeah.
on. Yeah, yeah.
Now, is that part of Japanese folklore? Because I'm not familiar with folklore. I didn't realize it was
Mhm.
part of their folklore. I was unaware of that. Are you familiar with their folklore?
Yeah, as far as I know, I don't know absolutely everything, but I'm a big fan of the folklore, folk horror element of the horror genre. So I always find that stuff kind of interesting. Obviously, it's like fables and like children's stories, like campfire tales of that kind of element. So as far as I know, that's obviously a part of the mythos that's included in this, and from the Japanese standpoint. So yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was the story as far as the origin of the cat and the ghostly tale was part of their folklore. I just thought it was just an aspect they kind of made up. I didn't realize it had a more historical meaning to it.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. I think there definitely is reasoning behind that. Have you seen any other like Japanese like horror films? Like obviously like anything like the Ring, The Grudge, that kind of stuff
Oh
too.
yeah, I've seen that movie.
Yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. But yeah, so obviously those are like that's semi steeped in like obviously like the tales of like of that in that's in Japanese culture and stuff. There's reasoning behind that as well. But I think like the Black Cat is I think it's probably I think it's seen as both lucky and also like a bad omen. Like how we obviously associate it with witches anyway, don't you? In like in Western culture, everything like that. So I think it's just the play on things with that.
Um, I never noticed it was part of folk. Like I said, I've seen a lot of Japanese horror films. I know they're ghost like as far as Japanese horror goes,
Hmm.
ghost stories are their top tier of the genre of horror, and they do a
Hmm.
slew of the films. But I never realized it was part of a bigger folklore, if you will.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, but with the story, obviously then goes on to the another element of the obviously there's the element of what romance that goes into it as well because it's almost like a tragic story, love story as well between the one of the samurai or obviously one of the farmers who gets drafted off to war has to go fight and he kind of like gets through it by the skin of his teeth essentially, and then becomes like a hero really unwillingly I guess begrudgingly. He's like noticed as a noble sort of samurai, as it were. He won the fight, and then gets like, recruited by one of the like bigger shoguns and everything like that. Um, and but from this, that he goes back home and he finds out the fact that well, where's my family gone? Like, what's happened while I've been away? Nobody knows. So it's just assumed that they're all dead. And then there's the sad element of the fact that when he does kind of meet these two again, because he's a samurai, he's been asked to kill the creatures that are taking out the other samurai. So obviously, when he encounters them, he's like, "Oh, you look very familiar," kind of thing. Um, and he gets entangled with that. And then there's just the two. It's like the go between with like, oh, they've been tasked to, it is in their duty, as it were, to kill off any samurai because it's like their code now as like part of them being
Part of the railway film.
yeah, yeah. So and then it's like, well, I love you, but I'm supposed to kill you at the same time, and it's like, oh, I love you, but am I supposed to kill you as well? So there's it's the balance of that. It's very interesting and very sad, like how it all like kind of like the love torn, really. Like it's all, yeah. I don't know. I like that element of it and how it all kind of plays out.
Yeah, I definitely thought it definitely had a really good traditional kind of samurai story with the whole. Do you watch a lot of samurai films?
I try a lot to get as many. I've got a whole shelf kind of full of them. I haven't seen them all, but yeah, I like Kurosawa films. He's a main one who for the samurai genre, and then there's all sorts. But yeah, I do really enjoy watching Japanese films as a whole.
I do know, I kind of this pattern. It's usually a lot of times. I do watch a good amount of samurai films. I still have a lot to watch through. I
Hmm.
haven't watched them all yet. Big part is always like I've read up onto a big part of their traditional storyline is the tragedy ending. Like it's always about kind of like here how it has a love story, but again it has a tragic ending where you don't always. It's kind of the opposite of I guess modern day films where you always get the happy ending. It's usually a more tragic ending. But the one thing I sure thoughts on that definitely stuck to me is when he first saw them again, he doesn't recognize them at first, and it seems like they don't recognize him either. And why do
Hmm.
you think that is? I just
Yeah,
kind of took me through a loop. Like, how would you not recognize him? It took him a couple minutes to
yeah.
recognize.
I don't know if that's because of obviously like they were like in the lower class, and he's dressed up more in like obviously on the more noble clothing of the upper class essentially. Like obviously samurai are revered as kind of like more in higher society. There could be that element to that, even though, and the same for them as well because they're in much more finer clothes as they are the ghosts, the spirits, whatever. So there's probably that spin on things that they don't understand. You're like, oh, you look vaguely familiar, but there's something different about you. I think, and because of that, I think that might be part of the reasoning behind that. Um, yeah.
I mean, that threw me through when I was watching. I was like, how do you not recognize your wife and mother?
Hmm.
Like, and then
Hmm.
again, he does recognize them at first. Well, not at first, but he then comes to recognize them, which then kind of
Hmm.
comes into play the whole aspect of now it's kind of trying to figure out who they are and why they look so much like his wife and mother.
Hmm. Yeah. I think like how the there's also an element with because it's based on the Japanese thing of kabuki theater. So that's like a traditional like how they do the plays and stuff like in Japan. And so I think there's that comes across in like it's basically how like the dance in the movement and even the lighting to in certain scenes as well that kind of and sort of like the dramatized way of getting across their dialogue and all that kind of stuff like especially in the interior scenes as it were I think so that kind of also plays a part of um you kind of like what's the word suspension of disbelief in a way of things with that because yeah to them you think it well we can definitely see obviously because we know that as the audience like that they are who they are but him in that kind of situation it might not be but yeah I don't know it's interesting.
It's was now you mentioned it. That did stand out to me too. The whole dance sequence, they felt kind of not out of place, but it seemed kind of like I guess out of place. You'd say it seemed like it was this side part of the story that really I didn't really understand at first what really how it played into the story. So you're
Hmm.
saying that comes from this is based on a stage play?
No, I mean by that I mean that they take the style, the elements of that. I don't think it's actually this is one that's from an actual play of sorts. I think it's just the style of theatrical aspects of in Japanese culture. I think it's just how incorporating that as part of the story, as
I was
far as I
just part
know.
of their
Yeah,
like culture, not necessarily a adaptation, but a
yeah,
representation or like a throwback to their
yeah,
culture and their order and their origin of theater. Okay.
yeah,
Is
yeah,
that
yeah.
that scene kind of? I was wondering because that scene did seem kind of strange. I was watching it because it didn't seem like it really played directly into the storyline. So I was kind of I figured it had some type of meaning or importance. I just wasn't sure why.
Hmm. Yeah, I think there's also maybe the you know like how you do a ritual dance for like sort of sacrifice kind of thing. So because obviously they're like demon spirits whatever it's almost like the mother kind of does a dance while the daughter is you know like seducing the the samurai in those scenes. I think that I could be speculating on that, but there's probably you know like a oh we're like conjuring up like this is our sacrifice to the gods and everything so that we can like exist essentially. And that's thing that could be something of note with that. But yeah, I was like I think with other scenes like there's like at the back end when the mother encounters the son again. This you can you can see the strings of like when she's like elevated and everything like that. But I think that's another part of Kabuki theater where they would have that to sort of like give that like dramatic thing of like I'm leaping, jumping around and kind of stuff. And um, obviously that's masked a little bit with editing, like a thing, which again is quite effective and dramatic with how that comes across. But yeah.
Yeah, I thought they did a really good job with those scenes when she was like jumping around doing the flips in the air.
Hmm.
I didn't notice the wires though.
Hmm.
And you mentioned I'm thinking about I had not noticed that the wires in the scene
Uh,
though.
yeah, it's only at the very back end you can see it, but when he's in that, obviously when he's in that the sort of like the isolation stage, like where he's got to be like kept away from everybody, um, to purify himself or whatever, and then when she comes like the mother comes like knocking at the door and lets him in, so she can retrieve her arm that he kind of severed off her earlier in another scene. Then there's kind of like you can see that, but maybe it was because of looking. But I don't know if I noticed it the very first time I see it. I can't remember. I've seen many times. I've seen the film now, but I think that's in a way that kind of adds to the charm, and it doesn't take anything away from me from watching the film. Really, it's so there's a lot much more that because some people might be like, oh, well, you can obviously see that, but there's other films that people love that they kind of waver on the fact of like, oh, you can see the strings, you can see like the bad special effects and things and that, but I don't think in general there's not really any bad special effects with it except perhaps when is it Hachi or Jintoki, who's the obviously the one who's kind of like he was at war and then he came back. When he's kind of like holding the head up to the shogun or whoever it is, like the more senior samurai guy, and he's got like a plastic. Obviously, you can tell it's a fake head in that scene when he's kind of talking directly to the camera. It looks a bit like, ooh,
Oh,
that's a bit, yeah. But again, not like not too like didn't take away from much from me for that. But I think it's like somewhat comical in a way anyway. Because again, yeah, other films can
yeah,
do it the best.
yeah. I remember seeing you talking about. I don't recall really. I remember the scene, but I don't really think it was too. I mean, again, again, yes, it was the head obviously was fake and it didn't have again the effects and they weren't able to do the prosthetics that they are today. But honestly, I didn't think it looked too. It didn't come off as cheesy. Like I felt like it
Hmm.
definitely worked and it played out. And I mean, I didn't think of it when I was watching it as it came off as cheesy or over the top, if you will.
Hmm. No, not at all. I think it's as I said, just bring that up because some people, if they would like to see it, and they'd be like, "What are you talking about?" Well, that's like obviously glaringly rubbish looking effect prosthetic thing going on there. But I'm just promise you, there's much more to this than the little tiny blip in the film. There's just so much more like depth and things to it, and yeah.
Yeah, I definitely had a lot of depth, and I really liked how at no point there was a few parts where I feel like this it kind of had those dull moments in there, but overall I think it definitely had a lot. The build up was great, and I think this overall storyline it really um the arc overall just the I'm sorry I'm like um overall I thought it was really great. Like I said, it flowed really nice. I didn't think it had I didn't have any issues with it. I thought it definitely a little slow at first, but they were when it kind of felt like it was slow a little bit at the beginning. Where I think they got to I think the between the second and third samurai kill, it kind of
Hmm.
felt like it kind of drug a little bit. But then once he kind of introduced the son back into it and it kind of picked back up the story, I thought it definitely picked the pacing was at that point really well, and then everything kind of came together, kind of, and the depth of it really built, and I thought it was really good. I didn't see like I think there's a lot more to it than those couple of moments.
Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it for that aspect. Because initially, truth be told, when I first did watch it, and um, I thought I was just gonna get old quite quick, like with a kind of like, oh right, you go to the next like second samurai, and then it's like the third kill, and it's like, are we just gonna have like a montage
Yeah,
of samurai kills?
but it felt like a
But
montage,
but
but it
I
felt like it was kind of slow though.
yeah. Yeah, and initially, yeah, but then as I've watched it more and more, I feel like it doesn't. It's kind of like it's purposeful how it kind of does that, and then obviously it gets incrementally quicker and faster to get to that point, and it's like, yeah, okay, it's just implying like, okay, this has been going on for quite a while, rather than just having one and then say like cut to, oh, all these people have been dying kind of thing, and I think that would have lessened it a bit if it didn't have a couple more instances of the samurai, because again that kind of explains like the whole thing mythos behind like why they're having to do that and like set up the story a little bit really. Yeah, I thought it's quite sort of integral to that.
Yeah, I think I meant to watch it at least twice when we talked about it, but I only had a chance to actually watch it once. And now you
Hmm.
said, I think on my second viewing, I think it will kind of feel more tenfold and won't feel like it's because that's where I kind of got to a point where I was watching is like, is this what the whole kind of movie's going to be? Because it felt like it was. I initially thought it was going to be that kind of repetitiveness, and it did. And looking back when you say that, watching as you watch on that second viewing, I could see it being more intentional, and you kind of have that build up, and you kind of see that where it's going, so it kind of feels less drawn out and more intentional.
Hmm. Yeah, because I can think of like an example of like a film I really do like, which is the Japanese version of The Grudge, Ju-on. Um, and I mean that whole film is essentially just, oh, the obviously the curse is like attacking different people. It's always like right person, and then it's like how are they going to get attacked by things. So that's kind of like that. As much as I love that the scary elements of that, it is a bit like a that gets it can feel like old very quickly. Like okay, here we go again type of thing. Whereas this is just like a few instances, and then it's like back to the story of things, and like there's more to that with obviously like the whole samurai, the balance of like the lower class and upper class type of thing, and obviously ultimately just like the revenge story that's unfolding with it, but with sort of like the tragic consequences of someone who has been forced into being a samurai and now has to um make it sort of like a difficult choice, and so does the daughter-in-law in that scenario. Um, yeah.
I think it was a really interesting point too. When you say that he's kind of forced into it. I kind of when watching it, and even in last time films, it's they make it almost. So Shogun makes it almost that it wasn't he was forced. He was honored to be brought into being a samurai. Almost as if it is. I mean, we see it as a he's forced and he's being ripped off the field. And when they were explaining to like, he's there doing the crops and he's being forcefully taken, but they make it look like, or in the Shogun's eyes, and when they portray it to him, it's like, well, we gave you this grand opportunity. This was a honor to be pulled into becoming a samurai.
Hmm.
And it
Yeah,
goes back to
and
what you're saying about how Shindo really kind of shows the samurai in a different light as far as being more villainous and less honorable. And it kind of, and I think that aspect also plays into it really well because it shows, even with the Shogun, that they're not as honorable as most stories and legends make it seem to be.
mm, yeah, that is definitely the case. One aspect I do like is the fact of again with how the 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 um the Shogun is like offering like, oh, you kill these beasts and I'll offer you women again, and it's like and then that is fairly typical with obviously that era as well, like how like the women are just like objects to be as a desire of that thing. So, and the irony, obviously, the fact that he's been offered these women, but he's actually a woman he obviously still loves. Obviously, at this point, he doesn't know about like her still being around, but it just like like he's killing, having to be told to kill the spirits, even though one of the spirits is the one he's technically in love with, kind of thing. So again, that's something that's obviously like offered up in this as a story point, um, and just shows like say like how this I guess the samurai in this are obviously having the greed of everything, like the and obviously as they explain, like the drunken state of the other ones before they get obviously wiped out. They're kind of like, oh, we can do whatever we want, kind of thing. Like they feel like they've just very chauvinistic, and like how they come across, and it's like just not a typical way of like in other films, like what a samurai is. Just very interesting portrayal of that. Like how you see in like oh gosh, so The Boys is like a good example of like how superheroes are supposed to be seen as great,
Oh,
yeah, thing, but then in that show they're like, oh, they are bit a bit hard, a bit of a bit they come across as assholes basically. Like you just like oh, they just very like oh, I expect everything, and just like but they can't be bothered with oh, these people are like getting in my way, kind of thing, like just how it is. So in some way just very interesting.
yeah, now you mentioned too, going back to that scene, I feel like, I don't know if you had that same view, but when he was offering up any women or any woman he wants if he kills
Hmm.
these beasts, it seemed to me like he accepted it because he was supposed to, but he didn't seem overly eager though. It seemed like he was still kind of restrained on taking up on the offer, or that he took
Hmm.
the offer because he felt he needed to, but not for the reward itself.
Yeah, he just more like I don't think he was very interested in that. I think it was just it's there if you want it essentially, just to entice, because obviously I think other samurai who would be obviously like assigned to the task would be like, oh yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah, that's all I'm in it for, really, like the women or something, and the power of that. But let's say like the women in these or in other in Japanese things and other things are very like seen as like submissive, like just to be expected thing, which I don't. Obviously, it's of the time, but as I say, it's in modern light. It's like I really approve of like how that comes across, and I'm sure that's like the same with other people as well as a view.
Yeah, yeah, it's from what I've seen, it seems like that is the common portrayal.
Hmm.
But I feel like in this with that particular shot, I feel like it really worked well though because it really builds up that notion that he's willing to give up everything for his wife because he wasn't taking it because of the women. He was taking it because he felt like he was being forced to almost. And then when he finds out it's his wife, it kind of I think it really kind of built up and makes that the sacrifice of willing to give up everything for her more um believable.
Yeah, and the fact that she gives up everything, she gives up her own life, the 7 days of heaven, essentially, with him, um, to then, but then he's like, this comes to the realization by the end of it, of the eighth day, it's like, oh, where's she gone? It's like, oh, well, yeah, she's not going back now. She's kind of like given up her life for love, that you gave her for that, just for like that brief moment in time, but now she's now forever gone. She's cast down to the other side. She's not coming back, and then sort of like I say like the sad part of it is like, well, do you obviously for limitations of like you have a finite amount of time left with someone, how do you spend that time with that person, kind of thing? Like you obviously want to you want to have as much time with that person as you possibly can, and that's kind of what they do with that. And it's like before, but he, yeah, at the same day, he doesn't seem to realize that okay, there is actually a short amount of time. He's just enthralled with her being there, kind of still alive, and just like enjoying her company, as it were. And then, but she knows that like she's making a sacrifice, the biggest sacrifice for him because she loves him so much. Again, that's what I find the tragic stories about it is very beautiful, but also very sad at the same time.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Again, yeah, very tragic, very beautiful, but tragic. And I definitely think it seems like almost that's a common, again, a common theme in a lot of samurai stories. You have this arc in which it has that tragic love story. And I think he definitely hit it really well with this, and it kind of played out perfectly with that.
Hmm. Have you seen Onibaba before, or
No,
is it?
I actually haven't, and I've been meaning to, that's been on my watch list. I
Mhm.
haven't watched it yet. I remember when I was watching this last night. I realized that it was from the same director. I haven't watched Obi-Wan before, you.
Onibaba, yeah.
Oh, but yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
forgot.
that that's fine.
My enunciation of a lot of it's weird. I watch a lot of Japanese films, but my enunciation is not the best.
That's fine, understandable. Like I say, like even when I like reading titles or like names of actors or I do on our podcast, it's a bit like, oh, I hope I'm not saying this wrong, but it's like I do my
I,
best to
I feel like I
with
butcher
the
it all the time.
time.
I feel like I
But
butcher it constantly.
yeah, so I think I say that because again, there's similar film, sorry, similar films. There's similar themes between the two. I think I say that that came out a couple of years before this one. I was so there's like another like a I think daughter-in-law dynamic with a love and everything, but I think that one's played a bit more like on the erotic side of things, like more so than this one. Um, so I do recommend obviously checking that out, but I wasn't as enthralled with that one as I was this one. So I don't know if it would if I had watched them the other way around, would this film have been had such a I say profound effect on me or not? So I think I was kind of like, oh, if this is if Kuroneko for me is like a very standout film and like already like skyrocketed up to like top 10 films, like what's this film going to be like? And I was a bit not say like disappointed with that film, but I think I like the benchmark was quite high, and I
And it
think
kind of
more
likes to
people.
let down a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, and Onibaba is seen as more of like a oh, that's more people have heard of that film than they have Kuroneko, which is I feel like it's my job to try and like get more people to invested in trying to seek out this film because for me it's like it's got a you got your horror aspect, you got your romance aspect, you've got a little bit of action here and there in it. I think it's like for me it's like a complete package of like just like a visual a feast really and I would say like minimal sound, but when it's used effectively and really good. um I know there's a 4K of another like ghost story, which again is very beautiful. It's called, I think it's Yugetsu. That's in the Criterion Collection. I don't know if you've seen or heard of that one.
It
It-
sounds familiar. It's called You
yeah.
Guess.
Let me just grab the shelf. It looks like
Oh
this,
yeah, I
and
have
it's
that one. Yeah, I
yeah,
got
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Uh,
So they've got the Blu-ray, and again, that's another great like beautiful ghost story tale, and that's getting a 4K some point this year. I can't remember when. What in the slate of is it June, July, perhaps? I think. Um, so I'm on the hopeful that at some point Kuroneko and Onibaba will get like a 4K upgrade. I think because I think that would that'd be like a day one buy for me if it get announced.
yeah, that would, yeah. I guess I definitely love this one. I definitely want to check it out again.
Mhm,
And I think if they did a 4K, I think I would have to upgrade to the 4K on this one as well.
mhm,
I
mhm.
don't. I don't see it as of right now. It doesn't look like it's getting a 4K release.
No, not yet. No, that's what I was saying. Like when they announce the slates for the months, and sometimes it's like brand new stuff from Criterion. Sometimes it is like upgrades of previous releases. And I was quite to say back that who was getting 4K, so that kind of gave me hope that they would eventually um will be, or in the future doing it, whether it's this year, next year, I don't know. Just keep my fingers crossed, really, because I think so. Like the quality of it is far superior than the first time I watched it on like a. It was still a Blu-ray, but it wasn't just as it's just not as good as if a transfer. So I say the a black and white cinematography and 4K is absolutely fantastic. So I can imagine this with a like a redo transfer will look even more incredible and just yeah. So that's something to hopefully look forward to. I just don't know when, but I think it's only a matter of time. I think just like anything.
Yeah, I feel like they've definitely been putting out a lot more 4K re-releases in the past months than they do new releases. Actually, I feel like I think this year so far, I feel like it's almost even. Like they might have 3 or 4 new releases a month, but they'll have like 3 or 4 re-releases where they just upgrade films that are already in the collection.
Hmm. Yeah. In terms of yourself, and obviously, I know your um show is about like Criterion stuff. Are you happy when they say like, oh, there's a you've got a film in your collection, and say you recently bought the Blu-ray, and then suddenly like a couple of weeks later or a month later, you go, oh, there's a 4K coming out. Are you be like, oh, come on? You're like,
It does kind of get me sometimes. Certain ones, I'm like, okay, I have to buy the re-release. Others, like some films, I haven't like I have it, but I haven't seen it yet. I won't buy the 4K. But
hmm
some films I will upgrade to 4K. But yeah, that's kind of a bummer because I am trying to get the complete collection. So especially
mm,
like the 50% off sales, I'll buy a lot. I'll go to like different like used video stores and try to find used copies of the
yeah.
films. So yeah, I'll actually get something and find out it comes out with a 4K release. It's like, damn, I have to get a little. Some things make me a little excited, but sometimes I get a little disappointed. I feel like I have to rebuy it now.
hmm Yeah, that is something I'm quite jealous of you guys over in the States. Like you get the Barnes and Noble 50% off sale. For us in the UK, there's is very sparse. We rarely get any sort of sales at all. Maybe just like Black Friday kind of thing. Like if we're lucky, some of the things go on sale at discount, not even like 50%. Um, so it's for me, it's like I have to very much be a pick and choose. Like especially at this stage of the game, like if I want to choose to import a Blu-ray, I'm thinking best wait now. Maybe it might get a 4K release, and then it won't matter about region locked. So I've got like a region free play. Obviously, that's how I play in the Kuroneko, but because that is region A locked, obviously for you guys, but for me, yeah, region A for you. Obviously, us in the UK, it's region B. So having had to get a Blu-ray player that plays all like region free kind of
All
thing
right.
is a first world problem, as it were. So we say. So in terms of like getting Criterions in here in the UK, it's normally like hope. Obviously, the advent of like the four going into the 4K market is a bit easier now. So if there should be something that isn't released over here, that in the UK that is 4K, like say a specific US release, as it were, because I know you've got like a massive collection of stuff that some of the discs we don't even get over here, like Pan's Labyrinth isn't one that we can't get as a Criterion over here. It has to be an import. So for that as an example of being right, maybe at some point I feel like that's popular enough that'll get a 4K. May not be from Criterion, so to speak, but it might be a different label perhaps. But who knows? I think I'm getting to that point now where I'm having to think about like what things are worth getting at this point, or maybe waiting it out. Maybe there'll be a 4K of it, and so that is the case with a lot of the Criterion discs. So
Well, a question with that. You said I know you're from the UK. Doesn't Amazon can't you? They don't have it on Amazon. Or is Amazon not?
oh yeah. I mean, yeah. Obviously, I can import from um from Amazon.com. It does ship. I've ordered discs from the States, but obviously that takes time. There's the import costs, of course. So again,
Oh,
it's more of a
they charge for
sorry.
import costs.
Yeah. There's like an import cost for us. I don't know if that's the same when you import from the UK. I think it's worse for you now. I think, isn't it? Because of
It
the
might be worse now because I bought because I
yeah
have a recent free Blu-ray player. Because
yeah
don't ask me why, but it seems like a lot of movies, especially older, like in the horror genre, it's easier to buy them from the UK. So I don't know how familiar you are with 88 Films.
yeah. I've got
Yeah,
88 films. Yep.
they'll have a
Second
lot of
sight and all that kind of stuff.
yeah, they have a
Yeah.
lot of films that over like I go on Amazon, it'll be like $18 for the Blu-ray. It's an
hmm
import, but that might be with a cost of an extra cost. I thought that was just the standard cost, and it imports it on
hmm
Amazon. But like over here, if you try to buy it from like Shout Factory or something, a lot of times they'll
Hmm.
only have like limited release and they'll sell out, and people
Yeah.
resell them online for like hundreds of dollars. So I
Hmm.
just found it cheaper to
Hmm.
buy the imports. I didn't realize
Hmm.
they charged a fee. I thought Amazon just was like a flat cost.
No, I think they kind of when it gets to the checkout, I think sometimes it's like, oh, that's a really good deal. I'll get that. And then I think it's some like obviously that postage and packaging may be a little bit into that more so. There's maybe like a very small fee. They do kind of outline it a little bit, but it's like okay, I'll for the working out the cost of it is like oh, it's still going to be cheaper than trying to find it from the secondary like eBay seller or whatever kind of thing. It's very much a keeping your eye out for sales stuff with that, and then so like with that goes for the same with like Shout Factory and all that kind of stuff. Like I do like um looking out for deals with that, but you just have to be like very vigilant with like trying to get the best deal on things. It is just like a say like a first world problem with that, but it's what it is.
I didn't realize it was. I always thought it was the same price like either way.
Mm.
Like on
No,
Amazon.
I don't think. No, I don't think it is. No, unfortunately.
Okay, I don't know. I see people like on YouTube.
Mm.
Yeah, I found YouTube's. I believe it was Elliot. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
Elliot Cohen. Yeah,
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 Elliot.
yeah.
Yeah. He does. Like he collects like Criterions and boutique labels, and the way he made it sound, I just saw he got them on Amazon. He just got it shipped over. I didn't realize it was an inflated cost.
Hmm. Yeah, I think there's when you talked about that is there's a I think it's called Boutique Home Video or something like they a UK company, but they cover like essentially import the discs from not just Criterion but any like American discs. They kind of that kind of alleviates the costs, but that's kind of also reflected on the price that they sell them at, kind of thing. So it's like swings and roundabouts with how it works with the costing of everything. But sometimes I feel like even with the nature of it, you could get certain things a lot cheaper from elsewhere. But I say it's just keeping an eye out on things for pricing. But yeah, sorry, I've got a bit of a tangent there with.
Oh, that's okay.
But it's something that obviously I don't get a lot of opportunities to talk about, like actual the discs themselves and like kind of stuff with people. So it's more just normally just a film or whatever. But yeah, it's been good, like just actually to vent a little bit, like how it's different from the US and the UK, like getting discs.
Oh, I never. It was an education. I never knew it was that. I
Mm,
think I always thought with online you could just buy it and it
hmm.
would be whatever the cost is on their
Hmm.
website.
Hmm.
And I know sometimes like if you order stuff from overseas, like I've had some import like not from Amazon, but like from eBay, I'll buy stuff on eBay. Sometimes it
Hmm.
costs like an extra, I think like $2 or $3 for like a shipping cost or something.
Yeah,
But I never realized
yeah.
it was that much of a
Hmm.
difference in
Yeah.
pricing.
It varies. It varies. Yeah, that's all I'll say. But yeah, no. I say like the Criterion Collection is something I really like discovering films from certainly a lot of it's opened up for a lot of things, not just like Japanese cinema, but like other ones that I've never would have necessarily come across before. Um, there's I don't know if you've heard of a blue a UK company called Radiance Films. They kind of doing they kind of they're doing taking like sort of like the criterion route of like films that I'd never have heard of in my life kind of thing, but they sound really interesting. I think there's a very niche market for that, and I've got a collection of those films, and they're just starting to come out with 4Ks as well. But they do also like Japanese cinema, like to like Yakuza films and that kind of stuff. Yeah, all sorts. But yeah, that's another good uh thing. But if for you, I don't know. Again, that probably like a import cost situation for you. But
Those I have a couple of those,
hmm,
but I don't. So I picked those up at like Eureka and the Radiance. I have a couple titles from them, but I
hmm.
didn't buy them online. I actually picked those up at a convention because they have
All right.
they have like conventions. I'll go to like conventions and like
Hmm.
they have like different vendors there. and I picked them up. And usually they're not too bad. Usually they're fairly priced about a little bit cheap, either the same price or a little cheaper than Criterion, depending upon the title they have.
Hmm.
But I never picked them up online, so I don't know. I don't. It's not how they get them either. I don't know if the people who are selling from the vendors how they get them imported. But yeah, I've
Hmm.
only ever bought those from like convention or ordered them online, so I'm not sure what the in costs or import costs would be.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, but again, that's something that wish we had more access to because, like, well, we do have some conventions, but like for something that would be selling off, like discs and stands and stuff, that sounds pretty cool. But I guess it's just very much a big boom in the States, isn't it, for like having those big stores to house the discs in and all that kind of stuff. I know that's much more commonplace, and to have that uh, the access to that is something I'm quite jealous of a little bit.
Okay. Well, the convention is more like what I go like usually they have like horror conventions and they'll have like just different vendors set like tables up. So it's not like
Hmm.
it's a bunch of like tables and they'll have like different like vendors come in like Vinegar Syndrome puts one up, a couple
Hmm.
boutique labels, and then Diablo. I don't know if you've heard of them. Diablo Video.
Uh, I think so,
They
but
don't have like
not
their own It's more of a like a third party seller. They don't
right.
have their own like label, so to speak, but they sell
Hmm.
everything from like Criterion, Eureka, and Radiance. Like that's actually where I got those films from. Was from their like they had a table set up. They have an online shop.
Hmm.
I never order anything from online from, but they're like a third party company, and they just sell all boutique label stuff.
Right. Okay. I have to have a look into that because though like there's a bazillion different labels coming out, and it's yeah, it's very tight on the wallet with yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's definitely been a huge thing recently. Is there's a bunch of new boutique labels coming out.
Hmm. Which I appreciate, but at the same time, it's like, oh, cost of living's going up, and yeah,
Yeah, and then some of them tight. I feel like some of them are overpriced.
sometimes they can be. I think for what it is, but another slight rant here is when they do these big box set ones, and it's the disc maybe in like a steel book or something, and literally there might be obviously if it's got a booklet that's okay, maybe that's more justifying the price, but when it's just like especially if it's a booklet with just pictures in and no write-ups or and then it's just some art cards and then that's how they justify it being like more expensive than just like a standard release. And it's like what was the reasoning behind putting it so high? Because it's not worth getting at that. And it's like I'll just wait for a standard version or something, or I've done that before. I've had to make the weigh the pros and cons of situations. Like no, I can't justify for that price.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
There's one like a new one that come out. It's called Error 4444, and they put out like a lot of unique Japanese titles. And I picked a couple up at the convention. They have an online site I went on. At the convention, they were about the same price as Criterion, but when I went online to order like the new releases, they want like twice or three times more than what a Criterion standard Criterion cost, just for a.
Hmm.
I'm like, it comes from the sticker and all like in a slipcover, but are you really gonna?
Yeah.
I don't understand. They try to overprice it by putting on like a slipcover or something like that. That really kind
Yeah.
of,
Hmm.
I mean, to me,
I know
it's
what you
like
mean.
justifiable. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
Yeah, no. Do you, here's a question for you. Do you think that obviously like the Criterions follow like a standard pattern with their like cases and there's no like a super deluxe box set, they are just what they are. Do you still feel like they are worth the value of what you get getting on like the discs or like the supplements and stuff like that, or the casing with the the little booklets they have sometimes or
I think that, and I've always said this. I think Criterion is overpriced, but I
Hmm,
think it's way overpriced considering the fact that you almost never have to pay full price for any Criterion. Which it doesn't
that's
make
true.
sense to me why they set the price or the retail price so high. Like if I go
Hmm.
on Amazon, a lot of people say, "Oh, well, when you're trying to like, was trying to buy Koreans are like, well, you got to buy them at the 50% off sales. It's like the only times you're really gonna get a good deal. But if you go on
Hmm.
Amazon, you just start searching Criterions. At least in the United States, half the time you can find them 50% off year round. Not
Anyway.
necessarily every title, but they're always like 50% off titles. And even with the new releases, if you go on Amazon, you pre-order them, they might be list price, like they announce them on the 15th every month. So you go on there the 16th or 17th when they go on Amazon, you pre-order it, you're
Hmm.
listed at the full retail price. But by the time it actually releases, it's generally like 30 to 40% off the list price because Amazon will match it whatever the cheapest cost is when you hit pre-order from when it releases. You never end up paying full price for it, it seems like. It's unless you go to Coherent.com and you buy it like a
Yeah.
random movie on a random day, you might pay full price, but generally you never actually have to pay full price for it. So I don't understand why they price them so high. I feel like they would
Hmm.
actually sell more if they just had a more reasonable price consistently.
Yeah. And that's the thing. There's also the aspect of generally, unless for some reason something does go out of print, there isn't much like urgency as like say Arrow Video when they do or anything like that where they do like a limited edition and it's like that you've got to get it right now or it's going to sell out and then you'll regret it. With Criterion, it's never seems to be the case with that. It's never like oh I can just pick that up whenever, which is kind of good in a way because they say that's
Hey,
for the 50% sale or whatever or any sale. It's like oh yeah I can get that at a cheaper price than what it's listed as, so it's no real worry. I don't think I've ever come across anything where it's like, oh, I'm never going to get that again now, and then it's on the secondary market for like astronomical pricing or anything like that. That's never accounted that with a criterion. It's normally like a, oh, okay, I'll wait for it. It's come down in price, I'll get it now type of thing, but keep an eye out.
yeah, usually the only ones that are that usually high price are out of prints. And the
Mm,
only out of print that I've seen that's really astronomically high, that's more than the cost of the disc itself at full price,
mm,
is John Woo's The Killer.
mm,
I don't know why. I looked up on it's been out of print for a while. I looked up on eBay to try to get it, and
mhm.
I've only ever seen three copies for sale, and they're all upwards of like $390.
That's a lot for one
If
film.
you go, if you go to the website, it says it's the retail price for the DVD is like 29.99. It's
Uh,
out of print though, so there's like only like
yeah,
three sellers, and they want like $300 for them on eBay. I,
that's
I,
crazy.
I don't get it. It's just to me
Yeah.
that's the only time I've ever seen it that high for Criterion. But you're saying with
Mm,
Arrow, I know with like Arrow and stuff, they do like the limited releases. It seems that they sell out almost instantly, and then they resell them
hmm.
online for like astronomical prices.
Hmm. Yeah, is the case. Or it does annoy me when they sometimes do that, and then some stores then go, "Oh no, it's almost like just kidding. We actually did have some like stashed away in the back or something like later on the line." So it's kind of, but I guess that FOMO, isn't it? Like you've got to get it now, because it will sell out, and then you might be like, oh damn, I did miss out that. But then late months down the line, there might be a case of like, oh no, actually let's say we've got some extra ones now. It's like, well, why were you hiding those before? Why didn't you just you know get a lot and the amount at the beginning, and then there wouldn't be people getting pissed off with you, kind of thing. But it's yeah, yeah, it's a funny game. It's a funny game.
I've noticed that nowadays. That's the only thing I. That's I don't get why. That's one thing with like Arrow and like Shout Factory. They always seem to only do limited releases, and it like kind of always. I don't know. I don't get why they do limited releases. I was talking to one guy at one of the conventions. He said they do. He was from Severin. He said the reason why they do limited releases is because I mean, this is their justification is they lease the rights from the distribution company to say, okay, we'll restore the film in like 4K, and you let us make X amount of copies, and then we'll give you we get to keep the profits, and what you get in return is a 4K restoration of the film, but they're only allowed to print so many copies, so
Hmm.
they have to like a limited release. But I don't know
Right.
I know this was Severin, but I don't know how that works with like Arrow or Shot Factory, who it has more mainstream or more popular
Yeah.
films.
Yeah. Yeah. Same. And this, I guess probably maybe the same with like Vinegar Syndrome as well. I know they do. They love to do the whole like limited slipcase thing, and then that they're quite popular, even though the films are absolute trash, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I enjoy that as much as the next person as well. I've got some cases where I've had to. I've last. I didn't this year, but I did take last year to take part in the Vinegar Syndrome sale, halfway a Black Friday sale, because I got some like spare cash and like I really want to get some of these films in. Again, very sort of being picky about what can when you add stuff to the cart and then going, okay, this is too much. I've got to go like a whittle it down into what I actually want because it's having no money left. But yeah, it's kind of the whole. I mean, for me, the buying experience is part of the fun in a way, especially like getting something where you feel like you're getting a good deal as well.
Oh,
In
yeah,
these kind
that's
of
what I did.
sales. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
In Vinegar Syndrome, I'm kind of like a little more picky with Vinegar Syndrome, so I feel like some of the time it's really good, but some of them they look like the cover art looks really good. It makes it look
Hmm.
appealing. But when you watch it, it's just like, is it really worth
Yeah.
the kind of like, is it really worth that much to pay for that? Because it wasn't as good as I'd hoped.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but I think you just go rough with the smooth with that label. I think you kind of go into expect, like I say, like the fact that they make the artwork look much better than the films themselves. Yeah, you're kind of relying on other people to be like, oh, have you seen this film that's like so bad it's good kind of thing. That kind of mentality with it, and then that's kind of like a selling point, or it's like just a crazy story, or maybe it's like it's really good like quality, like especially if it's like a 4K, like transfer for a film that is like absolute, like I say, trash, and it's like. But it's like, and then you're enticed to get it because like, oh, they've said it looks really good, and the story may not be great, but look at the quality.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. But do you have you might get asked this a lot, I don't know, but do you have like a favorite in your Criterion collection that you've got or that you've come across or
That's a good question. A favorite? I probably couldn't narrow down to one. If I had to pick maybe
hmm,
five, I could probably do like maybe a top five in the Criterion.
hmm.
If I had to pick my top five, I'd probably have to go with Blue is the Warmest Color, The Breakfast Club, um, um, One Two Mom Bien, Silence of the Lambs. Oh, my fifth favorite. Um, trying to think. That's a tough question. That's a tough one.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I just didn't know if you had like one at like on the top of your head, like kind of thing.
My
Because
fifth
I,
one?
because honestly, I couldn't like I've got a few, but I can't go like oh I haven't like put thought into like what mine would be. Other than the Current Echo is like up there, definitely for sure. But um, from the other ones I actually own, and some obviously I've bought in, but I haven't got round to watching yet. Probably like same with you as well. Um, there's ones on there like I do want to get round to covering on the show, but it's like the content of it is like whether it's going to make a good episode or not is another thing. But yeah.
That's I always put the prep that thing because I feel like I wanted to always do that. 'Cause I don't know. You watch the Criterion Closet videos?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. When they stand there and taking the like,
Yeah,
oh
here to pick
yeah.
10. That's actually what actually kind of more or less inspired the whole show kind of thing as I was came across his videos. And it always kind of like
Hmm.
really intrigued me kind of watching their top 10 picks. And that's something I've been trying to narrow down. If I had to pick 10, what would my 10
Hmm.
picks be? Not necessarily things I need to get, but just in the collection itself.
Yeah. Because for them, I'm guessing they'll be like, oh, I haven't seen this film before, but then they go in with it as well, like, oh, this is like, oh, there's something that inspired me, like my like acting career or anything like as well. So there's the balance between when they do those videos, but it's, I mean, obviously the way they talk about the films in that as well.
Seems like they've seen them
It's
already.
it's very, yeah. It's like, oh, I've got to see that now because that person again. It's they've been like, oh, if that person really likes that film, so I must watch that now because by association they're cool,
Yeah.
so the film must be cool. Yeah.
Do you have any top films that you would pick?
What from the Criterion or
Yeah.
yeah. I I say I don't really. I don't really know. Obviously, Kuroneko is one. Like Blowout is a really good one that I've seen not too long ago. The John Travolta, Brian De Palma film.
I've actually never
That
seen
was
that,
like
but I,
it's really good, really good.
I,
Yeah.
I've been told that so many times. A guy who used to work at a video store, I used to go to years, it was close up years ago, but he always used to push that every time they would have a sale, he's like, you have to get Blowout. You have to get the Criterion version because it has the best sound, like
Mm.
the remastered. He says, you got to get it. I've yet to get it though. But I've always heard Blowout is like a top tier film from them.
hmm Now I've got it on the shelf, but I can't remember if that was because again that recently got an upgrade. I can't remember if I actually did get the 4K version or not. But anyway, either way, it's a great film. Definitely recommend checking that one out. Quick scout from the shelf. Um, like there's, I can see on there. There's one I do want to see hopefully this year. Um, Double Indemnity. I've heard nothing but good things about that film. It's a Billy Wilder film. It's like a black and white noir.
Okay, I don't think I've seen that one yet. No.
Yeah. Um, Nothing but high praise about that film. Um, so it's like, okay, I must get round to watching that. And then I know like things like um I know it's in the collection, but I haven't got that version of it. There's Citizen Kane that's
Okay.
yeah, someone I can't remember what label it is, but they released their own version of it. This is obviously this
Chaos
sometimes happens
Studios?
with
Maybe
hmm?
KL Classics or KL Studios? I think they just did another re-release of it
Oh,
recently.
right. I don't know, but it's yeah. Again, that's another film that I've yet to see and get round to, but that's not necessarily from the the one I have isn't from the Criterion. But again,
Oh, you've never
it can
seen
bleed
System
over.
Thing yet?
I haven't seen System
And
K no.
I've seen it
Yeah.
once, but that was like I'm torn on System. I feel like I need a rewatch because I've seen
hmm
it once, but it was like a decade, at least a decade ago. I've seen it in film class, and it was like it was one of those films where they tell you it's like this high praise.
hmm
I just
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I kind I didn't really understand. I don't want to say understand it. It kind of I felt like it was still that
What?
point where I was still kind of dabbling in more classic films, and I didn't really appreciate it as much. I feel like I definitely need a rewatch on that one.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think I've got with the in before I even get into watching the film, I've got in mind like it's not going to be like for the proof of its time, it probably was like the greatest thing ever, but my expectations will be sort of tampered a little bit with with that. So
That is a strange
um
question. I just kind of felt this. That just kind of back in my mind.
hmm,
Now, word in your experience of maybe watching and kind of going into the more deeper aspects of film from being more, I guess, mainstream, you call it, to going into
mhm,
more worldwide classic foreign and more content films. At what point
hmm.
did you kind of feel like you kind of had that tipping point? What was a film that was like a tipping point for you?
Ooh. Um that is a good question. Um God, that is really tough. I'm, I don't know. I think like one of them. I think it's probably from like me. In school we had media studies, which is kind of like films, like film studying about film. Basically, that's what we called it in here in the UK. Um, and I think a couple of films that are in the Criterion collection, and I've got one of them on the shelf, much like a couple of years ago, because again, it was like one I did. I think I had to get an import of that. Um, but there's another one that we did, or a couple we did actually. They are Chungking Express, uh, Local Hero, and Ratcatcher. So they're different. I don't know if you've heard of any of those in the collection.
I've heard of Chunglong Express. That's on my watch list.
Yeah.
Local Hero. That's on my watch list. And the Ratcatcher. I've heard. Oh, Ratcatcher. That's Francis Ford Coppola.
No, it's
That's not.
no,
I'm thinking of
it's
Rumble something maybe.
yeah, it's this. I don't know if you've seen that
Okay,
cover.
okay. That's not what I'm thinking. I'm thinking of
Yeah.
Rumble Fish. Maybe it is.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that two of those, Ratcatcher have been one of them. Is like there's like Scottish, set in Scotland, and so was Local Hero in a way. Obviously, American goes over to Scotland and he falls in love with the thing. So, in that sense, I suppose like that as well. And we did a bit covered a bit of French New Wave as well. So like Jean-Luc Godard, Breathless, which I think that is that in the Criterion
That
collection
is
as
the
well. I
criteria.
think
Yeah.
yeah.
Breathless, yeah.
So I'm guessing probably like in what age will I have been? 17, 18. I think that would I guess that you could say was a tipping point, like learning about the different styles of like from the mainstream, like what was in the blockbusters that were in the cinema and everything like that. So it was like kind of like an awakening of sorts. But when I was in like university, I was still in that. Oh, I still like the typical stuff like all the comedies and stuff. But then, as I think the very first Blu-ray I remember getting was, which ironically was mainstream, but The Dark Knight, Christopher Nolan's film. But I think after that, I started becoming more like, okay, right, the quality of these films is looking much better than the DVDs. I had like a load of DVDs. My uncle also had like, um, he always like give me like random films to watch and stuff like that. So very obscure ones. Some of them I haven't even got round to watching after all these years. Bless him, bless his soul. But yeah, I think after shortly after that, it was kind of like, oh, right, taking what I've sort of knew of films from watching what I'd watched in film studies and being a bit more experimental with like foreign cinema and everything like that. And that's only just I said like just gone leaps and bounds from back in the day, from what I used to think I used to like, and now my tastes have changed dramatically. But guess like it's roundabout way that from those the simple times in school, watching those things like French New Wave and like Hong Kong cinema, and even like obviously like just slightly more obscure like British cinema, as it were, opened up a lot of doors and never look back and just really appreciate what cinema has to offer and coming across new films all the time and being just more open to what it has to offer. And I say Criterion does has helped with that a little bit.
Oh, I definitely see. That's could really help at least me as well. Open up because I've kind of had a similar experience when I was 17, 18. Went or was starting my film and kind of had more of that opening to different types of films and foreign films and kind of getting more into like classic films. But kind of trying to find where to start was always kind of a hard starting point. And Criterion
Hmm.
definitely pushed open more of the window to kind of dive deeper into the films and kind of get a better idea where to start, kind of so to speak.
Mm. I I think the very first. I don't know if you remember your very first Criterion purchase.
I I actually do. Is my first was Being John Malkovich.
All right, that's a great film. Yeah, it's a great film. Mine, as far as I can remember, I could be misremembering, but It was maybe going on 5 or 6 years ago. Um, was what was it called now? Sorry. Sorry, just bear with me.
Oh,
It's talk about Japanese cinema. Sword of Doom,
okay.
like a samurai thing. Again, it's what is a tale about a wandering samurai who kind of like, again, he's going against the grain, I suppose, with his violence and just taking out other like samurai and anybody who opposes him. Um, I think that was the first one I ever got, really, which just kind of seemed like a semi-random one, but again, sort of like not many people have come across that or maybe even heard of it, but I think it was more the cover of it looked very appealing, like a obviously like a samurai in the mist, and
Oh,
then
yeah, I
there's all
knew
these
the color on that one.
dead bodies. And I think that looks so cool. I want
Yeah, I
to
haven't
see
seen.
what
That's
that's
what I
about.
watched. I haven't seen that one yet. That is on my short list to watch.
Yeah, definitely recommend that one. Another random one that saw a few years ago, um, Tampopo. I don't know if you've heard that one.
Tom Popo.
Yeah, that is it's what's called as uh, sp- not a spaghetti western, a noodle western or Japanese noodle western. It's all about like culture of food, but there's the element of like like coming into town kind of thing, and there's a whole like different segments of the story, but it works around the fact that like there's somebody who's opening a noodle restaurant bar kind of thing, but it has that twist of like kind of like it would do in like a typical Western film. So that's why I say it's like a saloon kind of area kind of thing. It's very very weird and very it's good, but really um probably not selling it very well, but it's very interesting. So once you get around to in the collection, that'd be cool to get hear your thoughts on that.
It's the way you describe it. It sounds familiar. I remember seeing one of the films, the collection, like on the cover art, it was like a fork and it had like spaghetti wrapped on it. But I don't know
Yeah,
what it's called. Is that
that's it. Yeah, it's like it's like and it's like a cartoon cover. Yeah,
yeah,
it's like yellow and blue and yeah. I think that's it on
yeah. I
the
think
cover.
okay.
Yeah,
I haven't seen the movie, but the
yeah.
cover, the way you describe it, the cover like kind of stands out to me. Okay, I think I know what you're
Hmm.
talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, those are that's probably another good one, like another a favorite of mine. But it's been a while since I've seen that, and it's been a while since I've seen the Sword of Doom as well. But yeah,
Yeah, I
but
haven't seen
definitely,
Sword
I
of Doom
think
yet.
yeah, I think I've definitely I say like more of a niche in terms of like things that are in the Criterion Collection that are more like Japanese cinema for sure. I think more so than any other um genre or like uh, language, so to speak. But there are other ones on there. But yeah, it's just finding the time to get around to because some of them are quite obviously lengthy as well. That's another aspect of finding the time to watch all these films.
Yeah, I find that's one of my biggest challenges. I end up I get more than I can actually have a chance to watch. Like it's kind of hard to try to time in there. Speaking of Japanese, though, one of my absolute favorites. I can't I can't choose which one, but I'd say out of the entire like series, have you ever seen Little Wolf and Cub?
I haven't. I've got it in the collection. I've again it's something I want to get around to watching. But yeah, I got the Criterion set as well of that. But I do want to get it. That's cool artwork and everything. It's in this nice box. But yeah, it's getting around to sitting around to watching them. Yeah.
They're not too bad. They're like I think each there's six films in the collection. I think they're about an hour and a half, hour and 40
Hmm.
minutes each. And it actually comes with I haven't watched the only one I haven't seen in the box set is the Shogun Assassin, which is actually like an American version where they
Hmm.
kind of mash up the first two together. I still one I haven't seen, but I've seen the actual six original films. One of my favorite series. Um, that's actually and I was introduced from the collection was that one. I probably 4. I think was my favorite of the 6, but that was one of the ones that I definitely. You said Japanese. That was definitely one of my like favorites.
Hmm.
In that like subgenre.
Yeah, that's yeah. Again, yeah, it's just something that just sitting there. I've got it in the collection, as I say. It's just because I was there's another thing. It's like, do we like? Did you watch them all in like one after? Not obviously in one sitting, but like what like one day you watched it and then go right. Or did you give it like some breathing room to be like, okay, I digest that and then go like a couple of days later, then go watch the next one, or do you go like,
Honestly, it de it depends. So with that one though, honestly, I watched. I think from the first time I watched them. I think I watched all 6 in maybe a week and a half. That
hmm
was just because like there might have been a day or two I couldn't watch the movie just because of my work schedule. Like I'll have like I work late one night and have to get up early the next or something like that, so I couldn't
yeah,
watch the movie that day. But I think with that one, I think I watched all 6 of them within like a week, week and a half. That's how like it was. They were just that good. It was like and
right,
they're very lean, so they're like an hour and a half, so it's more of a lean,
yeah,
well paced kind of thing. So it kind of go by fast.
that's
And there's
good
some
then.
films in the
Yeah.
collection are like and very lengthy.
Hmm. There's it's still sealed at the moment, but the is it Jean Dielman, the one that one was like the greatest film of all time last was it like a couple of years ago when it was announced on the was it Sight and Sound magazine or whatever announced like the greatest films of all time and that was like top billing, but that's like a 3.5 hour film of a woman just doing her chores or something like that, which I don't know. Have you come across that one in the collection?
What's it called?
Jean, it's a very long title. I'll see if I can reach it from here. Um, this one, you might see the reflection.
I don't think I have that. I don't think I've seen that one.
Yeah, yeah. Again, it's like I am intrigued. It's 1975. It's 201 minutes long. So
That'd be a tough watch. That's a very
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
I think
So
the
yeah.
longest one I haven't actually watched, but the longest one I know of in the collection is The Human Condition.
Mm.
And that one,
I've heard of that, but I haven't again. I
you
haven't seen
haven't
them. No.
seen it. I want to say it's like a little over 9 hours long.
Wow. Okay.
And I looked at the back
That's
of it. I was like, how? It was 9 hours long. It's one of those films that they actually. Do you remember in the class, film class, they were talking about like they would have these grand premieres films, and they would have them where it was set like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, where you'd actually
hmm
go it'd be in 3 parts. And that movie is, I think,
hmm
played in 3 parts over the course of a weekend. It's like over 9 hours long.
hmm
I was
Yeah.
like,
I know,
that's,
like, and Seven Samurai is like another one that is obviously very, very lengthy. Um,
I think it's like 3.5 hours.
yeah, yeah. There is I know there is an intermission, which is very kind of them to do in the film. But yeah, it's I think that probably take maybe 5 minutes of the all that runtime, but I guess there's a lot to pack into that film. But
Have you seen
I
Seven
reached
Samurai?
I have, yeah. Only the once before.
I do love Seven Samurai. I
Yeah.
actually, there's a theater not too far from me that's doing a
Mm.
like a retro screening of it. I think it's in September. I want to go to. I think it'd be kind of cool, but at the same time, that's a long screening to try to cut into.
Hmm. Yeah, but I bet that'd be so worth it to see it on the big screen.
Oh,
100%. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And also, then sometimes I I'm kind of guilty of like having my phone next to me, and I get sort of semi-distracted with it. Like, oh, just checking messages and stuff. I've very much got to be like a trying my best now to be like, right, put the phone like across the other room, like tuck it in the drawer or something out of the way, because I just the thing of like, oh, just grab my phone just for really quick, just see something like pop up or whatever you get, pings something pings up. That
it's
it just
distracting.
get more annoying. Yeah, so it's like I'm supposed to be enjoying the film here. I paid, to watch this film essentially, or buying it in or whatever. Yeah, it's just something I need to get out of a habit of breaking, really. But I don't know if that's the same with you. Would you get that issue?
Not too bad. I'm usually pretty good with keeping the phone.
Mhm.
away. I generally, if I'm watching a movie, like, I'll have it on,
Mhm.
but I try to keep it somewhat further away. And I
Mhm.
keep it on just because I have a newborn. So if I usually watch most movies at night, so a lot of times in the middle of the night, will call me, "Come get the baby." So I kind of gotta. So I have it
Yeah,
on for that reason, but I try to keep it far away because
yeah,
it is hard to like kind of get that distraction to kind of when it pings to
yeah.
look at it.
Hmm.
Yeah, I try to keep it
Hmm.
far away to kind of stay in tune with the
Yeah.
mood.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, but yeah, no, yeah, I say this has been a great, great conversation of not just
Well,
about one of one of my favorite films, but obviously just talking about physical media and all that kind of stuff as well. It's been great.
I love talking because we have huge advocate on physical media.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I can see from the shelves in the background.
Oh,
Can't, yeah, can't see mine, but it's mine's got like there's obviously they're behind me on that side, but that's just one of the shelves. That's a very small space, and I've only got the wall over there. There's a small couple of cabinets over tucked away in the corner, kind of thing. But it's I wish I had more space, but
oh, basically,
yeah.
that's the hard thing.
Hmm.
I kind of got my
Yeah,
thing like set up in like the middle of the floor because I don't really have like too much to
yeah,
trying to find a space to
to
put
play
everything else
around.
on.
Hmm. Yeah, it's the problem, and the shelves are getting quite full. So it's probably going to have to be like a case of making hard decisions and probably either purging some of them away to sell on, or put them in like sleeves or something. You know, like and tuck away in like a one of those packed up kind of thing. Just but then it's
Oh,
the
right.
you forget about them if you do that. It's oh yeah, I forgot I've got this disc or whatever because there's
Yeah, it's
some
right.
I've
You
still
can't
got.
see
It's got
it.
yeah, it's I think I swear I've got such and such a film, and then you stumble across it and oh yeah, there it is. That's
Oh,
away,
okay.
but yeah, that's fun. But yeah,
Oh, it was definitely good talking. I definitely enjoyed it.
yeah. No, so as I say, same. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. If you ever want me back to discuss any other films in the future, then I'm very much happy to do that because as I say like just oh, I, Criterion stuff as well is really good. There's some ones to delve into, um, ones I haven't seen, and obviously ones I have seen. But yeah, no, it's been a great, absolute blast.
I definitely want to have you back on. Just let me know whenever you're free or what you want to cover.
Yeah, yeah, okay, we'll do. Yeah, am I right to do a quick plug for my show?
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah. So, so me and my partner Sophie, run a show called SP Film Viewers, and it's basically the majority of the time, or how it started out, was introducing her to films that she probably should have seen in the her part of her life. So things like before we started, she hadn't seen like Back to the Future or The Matrix and things like that. Um, and some films I was like, okay, I want to get her a funny reaction of how she like interpretates films because she's very like brutally honest half the time with how she comes across. So and now it's kind of delved into a little bit more of like what we both haven't seen as well, interspersed between like bi-weekly kind of thing. So covering films that, like I say, like Citizen Kane might be one of those films where like at some point in the future, be like, okay, right, we're both going to sit down, and we're going to watch this and see what all the fuss is about, kind of thing, and then so like just have a topic of conversation about that after the fact. So, that is over on all the major podcast platforms like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We do have a YouTube channel, but that's got to kind of lift off the ground a little bit with stuff like that. But we're over on Instagram and X and Blue Sky and all that kind of stuff under the handle SP underscore film viewers. So yeah, appreciate if you give us a listen, and I'm sure you'll probably get a laugh out of some of the films we cover. My wife's views on things. She might slag off your favorite film. Who knows? Yeah. But thanks once again for
Oh,
your time. Yeah, and
oh,
it's
thanks for
been
joining
really
me.
fun.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.